Good afternoon. It's Mandy from Pulled Into Letting Go. How are you? As you can tell by my hair, boy, it's been a day. I had a day of running errands today. It was my husband's first of 2 days off in a row, which is nice. And he was able to help me run the errands this morning, which was very nice because we ran about 5 of them in an hour and a half. So, fortunately, everything's pretty close. Um, Today I wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like to get the court papers, the whole process, start to end, and just some of my feelings about that. Yes, my lamp is cockeyed. I have 5 cats, 4 kids, and 2 dogs. And guess what? They all like to come say good morning to me. They all like to check on me anytime I'm taking a nap. I don't know if it's to check if I'm sleeping or to see why it sounds like there's a bear sawing logs and while holding a rock concert in our room. Yes, I snore. Um, anyway, next to it, that boop, there it is, that squirty bottle there. That is my linen spray that I use on nights when I feel high anxiety or I'm not feeling well. It's a lavender chamomile spray, and I'm going to link it down below. Well, depending on where it shows up on your screen, I'm going to link it in this post. Full disclosure, I do earn money when you click the link, and I earn a little bit extra when you buy the product, but that's not why I'm linking it. It is, but it's not. I'm linking it because it has been extremely helpful. I suffered for years from terrible nightmares, especially due to flashbacks. And I also suffer terribly from chronic migraines, which is a part of my PTSD. So, that spray really helps. I'll spray it on days when I have a terrible migraine. I'll just spray a little bit over the bed and the pillow. And then I'll lay down and I'll make this room as dark as I can, as quiet as I can. And I just focus on my breathing. And oh my goodness, does it help. The scent not only calms me down, but it gives me something tangible to focus on, to ground myself, so that I can focus on my breathing. So it is very helpful, and I do highly recommend it. Having said that, I will be periodically recommending products that helped me, books, things like that, spray. Um, Videos like I've recommended Amazing Love, the story of Hosea with Sean Astin. Um, I'm recommending them because I found them helpful. If you're not in a place to purchase them or you don't think that they're going to be helpful, please don't purchase them because um, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to help. And if I can make a few cents on the side, that's great. But if not, that's not my priority. So I'm sorry. I gotta drink my water today. I'm a little bit behind. I've got 2 Bible studies tonight. My kids have youth group tonight. I ran those errands earlier. I was doing housework, and so I figured, you know what? I will just drink my water while I talk with you, and that'll be a reminder for us both to take care of our bodies. Yes, I did eat today. So, anyway, what was it like to get the court papers? First of all, it was a big step to decide to get them. It's been 30 years in the making. I've thought about it a few times over the years, but I didn't know that it was possible. My husband was a corrections officer in the same jail where my stepdad was held, and he had looked for the court documents and couldn't find them. So I just assumed, well, they don't exist. Well, I got a wild hair one day and I was like, I have to know what's in them. My, I had so many secrets in my family growing up. And like these huge secrets were just revealed one after another, after another, after another growing up. And it was always a lot. And I got to wondering, what else about my life do I not know and about my family? And so that's what really prompted me to, my hair's wild, to get those court papers. And so I started digging around online, and originally it looked like I had to go through the state that I live in to get them. And so I contacted them and I told them who I was and what year the trial would have been in. I didn't remember the month because I was 9. Um, and so I asked them, I said, oh, and I told them who the defendant was and who the prosecutor was. And that was it. That's all I knew. And, oh, in the courthouse that it took place in. And they emailed me back and they said, oh, it's at such and such a place. Here's the phone number to call. Here's the case numbers. Good luck. And I was like, oh, it's that simple? So the very next day, I called and asked, and oh my goodness, I am completely blanking. The not court reporter, the person that has the files in the court, oh my goodness, I'm having a mom brain. Anyway, they let me know, oh yes, we have those files. We can print them out and mail them to you for 25 or 27, 25 cents a page. Or we can email the whole thing to you in a zip file today for $3. And I was like, booyah, let's do the $3 option because it was 27 pages. 25 times 27. Have fun with that. Anyway, anyway, so I did that. I did the $3 option. And I had it within the hour. It was like mind-boggling to me. And at first I just sat there and I stared at the email. And it was on a Wednesday, just like today. It was a couple of weeks ago. And I knew that I had a Bible study to go to. I knew that my kids had youth group. And I was like, oh, should I read this? And I went ahead and I opened up the first page. And I read about 7 pages in. And I just started bawling. It was lie after lie after lie that I uncovered from my stepdad and my mom. And I'm not saying the courts lied. They did not lie. They recorded everything as they were told by the adults in my life that were supposed to, that were supposed to protect me. And I just sat here bawling. And my husband came in because dinner was about ready. I had started it and then I came in to check on the email. And I ended up pulling out a picture. Here it is. Ooh, I have a wobbly table and oh my gosh, I have the best smelling candle. It's maple bourbon. I have to be careful. Anyway. And I ended up pulling out a picture and I showed my husband this and I was like, this was me. This little girl right here, that was me. He did all those things to me. And then he lied about them. That was my honest to God reaction within minutes of reading the papers. And again, I was only 7 pages into a 27-page file. I was inconsolable for about 45 minutes to an hour, just bawling. And I ended up, he was behind me on the bed. And I ended up just turning around in my chair and just put my head in his lap and just cried. And I said, how could he do that to such a small, innocent, trusting child? How could he do something so evil? What did I do wrong to deserve that? And I knew that wasn't the right question, but at the moment, that's just where my head was. And I wasn't expecting him to answer. I mean, my husband is a very good man. He has a hard time spanking our kids when they do something really terrible. Um, he is a very good man. And so I knew he would not have the answers, and I wasn't asking him for them. It was more just crying out in pain, rhetorical questions. And he just sat there kind of petting my head, just like, it's okay, I'm here for you. And he's like, I know it's not okay, but I'm here for you. You know, he was kind of stumbling through, not sure what to say, and but just wanting to be here. And I felt for a moment like I was right back in that courtroom, sitting at the big wooden table, feeling super tiny, looking up at this grumpy old judge and trying to tell my story again and feeling like, are you listening? Do I matter? Does anyone see me? Is this going to make a difference? I felt like that little 9-year-old again. Somehow, I had to pick myself up, go eat dinner with my kiddos, and get everybody in the car and go to Bible study. And I will be honest, I contemplated just staying home and going through the rest of the paperwork by myself. But I knew that that was not a good option. I knew it was not the healthiest option for me. And so I emailed my pastor before I went out to dinner, or went out of the room to go to eat dinner in the dining room. I emailed my pastor, I emailed a good friend of mine, Andrea, and I told them what was going on and how I was feeling. And I didn't want to give darkness a chance to creep in and just, you know, cling to me. I wanted to be very open and honest about what was going on and know that there were people who also knew what was going on, and would be there for me. And this is the part that's going to make me cry. My beautiful friend, Andrea, she sent me the most uplifting, encouraging message on Facebook, because we live in different towns. We live a few hours apart. And she just reminded me how strong I am and how much I encourage her and how proud of me that she is. That part gets me. I've had very few people in my life earnestly tell me that they're proud of me, and that gets me. And she reminded me that she's always here for me when I need her. She said all the right things. And I needed that so desperately in that moment. I hope that each of you have someone like that in your lives too, because wow, is that powerful to get a message like that in such a devastating moment. It was like, here's that email, here's what it did to me. You know, it's way, 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 way down here. But then here's Andrea, and she's like, nope, you're up here. You're up here. I've got you. And it was just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. She's a beautiful person. Badass nurse, too, to boot. And an amazing mom and wife. She is just, I don't know what I would do without her sometimes. She's an amazing person. So anyway, I went to the Bible study. I made it through. I came home and I got right back in and I read the rest. And a lot of it was a lot of legal jargon that I didn't quite understand. And it wasn't super important to the story. It was, some of it was duplicates because they had, or well, almost duplicates because they had to correct the wording on some of the paperwork for the sentencing. But the thing that affected me the most, and this is weird, really, really weird. The thing that affected me the most was the page I shared where he admitted he pled guilty to abusing me. Yes, it was only 6 counts that he pled guilty to. 3 counts of sexual abuse, 1, 3 counts of harassing a minor under the age of 14. I'm going to set that part aside for a minute. The fact that he uncontested pled guilty was, I'm not going to say healing to me because it wasn't quite healing, but it softened the blow a tiny bit. Like there was no fight. It was just, yes, I did this. I don't know how to explain it yet. I'm still processing, but that meant something to me. The fact that I didn't have to fight it. And it kind of makes the trial seem like it makes a little more sense now as to why it was so short and why my testimony was so short. But on the other side, if I dwell on it too long, I get angry all over again about only 6 counts, only 3 counts of sexual abuse, and 3 counts of harassing a minor under the age of 14. I could become enraged about that very, very easily. But I made a decision years ago when I got saved that I was going to pray for my abuser as often as I could. Originally, in my zealousness, I said every day. I'm human. I have a hard time doing that every day. Sometimes I do it multiple times a day, and sometimes I will go for days or weeks at a stretch, and I don't think about him, and I don't pray for him. But I do try to do it as often as I can because I take the Bible very seriously, and I take my relationship with Jesus very seriously. And when he says love your enemies, he means it. And if Jesus can forgive the people who put him on the cross, who murdered him, a perfect God, then I should be able to forgive 9 years of abuse. And I don't do it in my own strength, and I don't do it in my own power. I cannot do it in my own strength and my own power. It's not going to happen. That's why I pray. And I'll be honest, there have been times where I have sinned when I prayed, and I have said, God, just take the bleepity bleep out now. Take him out in the most painful way possible, because I am done. I am done. God does not grant those prayers, does he? I used to think that I was praying for my stepdad so that God would change him. And what I have found in 11 years of praying for him, especially the last year, that's most profound is that the prayers that I pray for my stepdad, God has changed me. And I look at people around me differently than I used to. I now look at people who are kind of jerks out in public and I say, I wonder what's hurting them to make them act that way. That's usually my first thought is, I wonder what's hurting them to make them act that way. Very interesting reaction. That would not have been my reaction 12 years ago, was not my reaction 20 years ago, and absolutely was not my reaction 30 years ago. It's one of the reasons why I say healing takes a long time. There are so many steps. It amazes me when I think back over all the little things in life that seem little and insignificant, but really they're leading to something much bigger, a much freer, healthier, healed version of me. And I can see all the miracles that God has worked in my life. Excuse me. And it is amazing. It is amazing. And I can't help but thank God at the end of my prayers, pretty much all of my prayers, that He never has left me, He never has forsaken me, and He never stops working in me. Earlier this week, I was exhausted and I was hurting inside, and I was just physically, emotionally, and spiritually just wrecked. I had been working nonstop on a bunch of different things, was not taking care of myself, and I got really grumpy with a couple of people. And I took a moment yesterday and I stopped and I prayed about it and I said, God, I know that the problem is me. The problem is not those people. I know that the problem is I'm going nonstop and I'm not spending time with you. And ultimately, though I have sinned against those people, ultimately, God, my sin was against you. And I thank God for forgiving me. And I thank God that He's continuing to work in me. And I have faith that the work that still needs to be done is going to get done, but it's going to take time. And I share that with you because I don't ever want to come off like I've got everything together all of the time. I have a lot of things figured out, but the biggest room in my house for improvement is myself. I have the biggest place for improvement. There's always work to be done. And the older I get and the more mature I get, the more I can recognize that and own up to my mistakes. Because there was a time where I couldn't own up to it because I was scared. I was scared that people wouldn't like me, so that meant that they wouldn't help me. That in my mind, I was scared that I was going to be punished and it would hurt, like physically hurt, because I've talked about this before. I was physically hurt by my stepdad if I told. So I was afraid of making mistakes and not pleasing people. The older I get, the more I realize owning up to our mistakes is what helps us grow, and that growing pain is important. it means something is happening. Something good is coming out of it. And there's some stuff going on in my personal life that's just, it's not pretty. Um, Growing pains, difficulties, and I also spent some time praying about that yesterday, and I thank God for the reminder that something better is coming. We don't have growing pains for no reason. They're not just there to be there. Something better is coming along. And so I thank God for whatever that is that's coming along, because I have faith that it is. And I've been through enough years in my life to recognize that the bad times don't last forever. Sometimes they seem to last forever, but they don't. They really don't. Something better is always coming. So, and it's nothing that anybody on here needs to worry about. It's just, life stuff. Eh, it'll be, it'll work itself out. So, my husband just, well, I'll touch on it a little bit so you don't worry. My husband has some minor disabilities from both the military and a really bad fall he had several years ago at work. And it just, it makes it a little bit difficult for him, no matter what type of job he has. And so we're just kind of trying to figure out what to do about that right now. So anyway, yeah. But you know what? A pastor told me many years ago, I'd much rather have financial trouble than spiritual trouble. I'd much rather have financial trouble than a child die. I'd much rather have financial trouble than pretty much anything else in life. It could always be worse. At least with finances, there's resources elsewhere to help. So, he's not wrong. We will make it through this. And I just want to end this blog with a reminder. I'm always going to end with a reminder similar to this. If you or anyone you know is in a dangerous situation where they're being harmed in any way, and I'm not just talking sexual abuse, it could be an emotionally controlling, abusive partner, it could be physical abuse, it could be financial abuse where, I've heard of women in marriages where their husbands control all the money, even though the wife is working 40 plus hours a week, pulling in the money, and they're not allowed to touch it. It could be elderly abuse. It could be any form of child abuse. Whatever that abuse is, name it, okay? And then start talking about it to anyone and everyone who will listen. Run away from your abuser and stay away. I realize the economy is absolutely horrible right now. I realize that in many situations it seems like you have no choice but to stay. That is totally wrong. You don't need to stay. There are people who will help you. Keep talking. Scream it from the rooftop. I don't care what you have to do. If you're being abused, you need to leave today. Turn this off right now and go get help. Go to the police station. Go to the Department of Human Services if they're open in your area. Heck, I've even seen people call 911 and pretend to order a pizza and get police to come to their house. Talk to your pastor, talk to your friends, text somebody and ask them to call 911 for you or send help. You've got to get out of there right now because you are absolutely worth more. God did not create you to be a garbage can for other people's emotions. God did not create you to be abused by someone else. He created you with a purpose and a plan. He knew you even before he began knitting you together in your mother's womb. Think about that. Think about that. Before you were conceived, he knew you. He loved you. He loves you now, still. Before you were conceived, God knew you, loved you, and planned for you to be here. He loves you now. He knows you now. He sees you now. And he wants you free. And if this is the only thing that you get out of this message today, it's that God wants you to hear this and he wants you to get free now because you are worth more. I have links down below for a few places that can also help you if you don't know what your resources are. There is no town too small or too remote for you to get help. And you are not a burden in asking for help, even if it takes a lot of resources to set you free. There is not a price on your life. There could never be a price on your life because you are too valuable. Never feel guilty for asking for help. Never feel guilty for receiving help. If people did not want to help you, these resources would not exist. Let me say that again. If people did not want to help you, these resources would not exist. Sometimes it takes a while to get them into the small, rural, distant communities, but they are there. And you may have to travel a little bit, but you will get them. You will get the help you need. You will be free, and it will be worth it. And you will look back someday on the moment when you decided to ask for help for the first time, and you will say, wow, wow, I am so different. I am so glad I asked for help. And I am absolutely worth it. Now let me go help someone else. Because that is the joy of coming out on the other side of a broken, horrific, abusive situation, is reaching that hand down and pulling somebody else up out of their broken situation. And once you get to that point, I promise you, you're going to feel your own victory and theirs all over again. I love you, but more importantly, God loves you. I'll see you again soon.